quick rundown of day 2 on this project. I'm just replacing all the coolant hoses, the radiator. I did the power steering reservoir, new reservoir, the hoses to that, and then reconnecting the automatic transmission coolant hoses to the radiator as well, since those were bypassed before. New thermostat, drained the automatic transmission fluid. I already recycled all my coolant and oil. I'm gonna put the fan back on, got a new shroud, got a new stock Toyota radiator, power steering hose. The dumbass shop that I took it to put heater hose on my power steering reservoir, and it just swelled up and leaked all over the place. This is where it was, and I just had power steering fluid pouring out everywhere and very little power, so I'm going to put that on this new reservoir here, clear it out. They also put power steering fluid in there, but I'm going to replace it with ATF, bleed it out. I'm just putting in all stock parts. Alright, so I have it all buttoned up. I installed the radiator, the new fan shroud, new hoses all the way down there, new hoses, new power steering reservoir. I changed the automatic transmission fluid, flushed all the coolant out, flushed out all of the power steering fluid, and put in fresh ATF. Now I just got to fill it up with coolant, hook the battery back up, test it out. Alright, I got it running. Letting the coolant burp in there, get the air out of the system. No leaks. And the final stage of putting this all back together is stock radiator cap. Perfect. Alright, just came successfully up 3,000 feet with the AC blasting, nice and cold. Radiator fixed my overheating woes. I stayed at the middle temperature the whole time. I wish I had done this test before, but right here would get super hot. It would get like almost too hot to touch, because that's where my ooh, that's pretty hot. 120, 111. That's right where my transmission is underneath. But see, it's still like fine. Before it was like roast, like I'd be like, ah, you know, when I touch it. Right here too would be like smoking hot. So the transmission cooler in the radiator really helped, because that was bypassed. Obviously that's just dumb, but here I am, 3,000 feet up above San Diego. A lot of steep pass, big steep pass. I forget what the name of it is, but a lot of good hills. Just gonna shoot my, let's see what this is. 199, that's the inlet after the radiator. I don't know how about this hose. 191. So it's still a little hot, but I don't know if that's how you're supposed to read that temperature. Let's try the 292, 294. That's at the thermostat. Transmission cooler. There you go. Transmission cooler is nice and cool. You can see the AC's flowing. Before my AC would shut off on the way up. And of course the temperature gauge would get way up there. Right below the red. That's when I would like slow down and pull over. Wouldn't let it get into the red, but AC never turned off going up the steep pass hills. So new radiator did the trick. Checked everything else first and had to go big with the radiator. Alright, I'm super stoked. Beautiful day. San Diego. This is on the way up to Corral Canyon. Thanks. See you later. AC running. Staying at the middle mark. Going up a steep ass pass. We're just at 3,000 feet. We're about to get up to the top. AC's still going strong. Wasn't able to do this before, that's for sure. I'd be right up at the red line there. I'd be with this semi truck, I'd be going the same speed. So it's been a couple of days since I have installed the new radiator. Quick follow-up and a couple details that I kind of missed. So when I drained the radiator, I drained it out completely. At the bottom of the pan, I noticed that there was some black particulates as well as some orangish or reddish white particulates. The black looking like rubber, and possibly a whole gasket fell out. I believe that was the gasket that was on the previous thermostat that the shop had installed for me not even that long ago. There was also black particulates, which when I pulled out the thermostat, there was RTV around the gasket. I don't believe that's a way that you're supposed to do it, but I did not do that when I reinstalled my new thermostat. I also wanted to iterate the way that I flushed out all of the green coolant. I opened the heater valve, and then I opened the bung on the side of the engine block, as well as pulled off the thermostat housing and the thermostat out. So everything was drained, and then I poured in 2 gallons of distilled water into this hose and let it run out until it was clear. Then I poured in a gallon or maybe a half a gallon of the radiator flush. I let that sit overnight. The next day I came out and I poured another 4 gallons of distilled water through the here and let it drain out of the engine block and the thermostat. I did decide to go with green coolant again, just after reading the forums and seeing that there's a lot of opinions on red and green, but I just went with green since I already had green in there, and I don't know, I just felt like going with green. So other than the torture test that you saw previous to this, I also went up Sycamore Canyon Road, which is outside of San Diego. Pretty steep switchbacky road with a couple difficult offshoots for some four-wheeling. I put it in 4 low and did some nice little rock crawly stuff going up. And I am happy to say that the radiator stayed at the regular temperature. My AC was continuing to work, and so I have officially fixed my overheating. However, it isn't that hot out yet, so we'll have to see what it acts like when it's 90 degrees outside. But so far it's way better than it was before. Also, I just wanted to showcase that switching out the hose for my power steering and the reservoir has greatly increased my power steering. Just wanted to also show that this was the previous radiator that was installed in my Land Cruiser. It is a CSF radiator, all metal radiator. It seems that people definitely like these radiators. They seem to be a good alternative to stock. However, I was definitely ready to go just back to the stock radiator. I do notice that when looking in this inlet here, there's quite a bit of corrosion in there, and that's kind of like the same stuff that had come out of my flush as well. So I'm not sure what that is. If anybody knows, you can please let me know. But it definitely was kind of, I mean, look at that, it's crazy. I think that's the reason why this radiator wasn't really working very well. Just a quick bonus, I did some adjustments on my brakes. I changed the fluid out. I drained out the old stuff and put in new .4 Prestone brake fluid. I did this by just pretty much stepping on the pedal a bunch and letting it drain all the way out from the furthest side. So the passenger rear tire, I cracked that one open and just pushed a bunch out, and then I went to all the rest of the tires. This one, then the driver rear, then the passenger front, and then the driver front, and cleared out all of the old brake fluid. And then lastly, I went to the LSPV valve. I adjusted my bracket to go all the way to the top as far as it could, and then I adjusted the valve to go as low as possible. So that is to increase my rear braking power, supposedly. When I was coming down the mountain yesterday, down Sycamore Pass, it was definitely not locking up the rear brakes at all. I do notice that the rear discs are nice and shiny, so they are being used, but I couldn't lock up my rear tires even when slamming on the brakes as hard as I could coming downhill on gravel. So that was my attempt to change that. However, I will have to run the test again, but bleeding the brakes definitely increased my stopping power by a lot. I am not sure if the shop, when they had changed my rotors and pads, if they bled the LSPV valve. So that concludes my radiator troubles, and thank you for watching.